Hello and welcome to News Central Television. I am Dapo Adegboye. The top stories at this hour. Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu begins official engagement in Qatar. 100 rally in Senegal demanding speedy elections. Thousands protest in Tunisia over falling living standards in Tunis. Details in a moment. We begin the news at this hour with Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu kicking off his official engagements of a two-day state visit to the State of Qatar with a visit to the museum in Doha. The president, speaking on the significance of the museum, stated that it is great to document culture from the beginning of history, the culture of civilization, collaborations, challenges, and perseverance of leadership.
It's marvelous. It's detailed, well-detailed statement of history, culture, and growth, and economic opportunity. And it is great to document this kind of culture from beginning of history, the beginning of civilization, the collaboration, the challenges, and the perseverance of leadership. Well, we still have a long way to go. That's all I need to say.
Thank you very much.
For now.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency.
I'm glad I'm here. It is a great honor. You learn every day of your life. And you see the beginning of nationalism, patriotism, and various challenges along the way. You learn as you go on. Thank you very much.
Governor of Benue State, who is on the president's entourage to Doha, and other ministers who spoke to journalists, expressed deep appreciation to their host for providing the opportunity to engage with the Qatari investors and also look forward to a rewarding experience. Those at the meeting aimed at mapping strategies for engaging with the host, including the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Wale Edun, and also the Solid Minerals Development Minister, Dele Alake, amongst others.
Is currently building an orphanage in Maiduguri, building schools and others in Maiduguri, while they are also constructing thousands of homes in northern Nigeria, especially I think in Sokoto and in Kaduna. Their main objective is to assist the displaced communities in Nigeria, especially the downtrodden community. We want to convey our deep appreciation to the Qatari Charity Foundation. This morning also we have been to the Qatari Foundation, which is a bigger umbrella than the Qatari Charity. So we believe with the presence of the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, this organization will provide some support to the government of Nigeria, both at the national and sub-nationals, because the main objectives of the initiatives of Qatari foundations are geared towards enhancing education, science, and research, and community development.
Meanwhile, the Nigeria Labour Congress has told President Bola Tinubu that members of the union are not interested in any political position, including his office. The president doing the inauguration of the Lagos Red Line project on Thursday threw a jab at the labor unions, telling them to stop their protest and maintain peace, as they are not the only voice for Nigerians. He also told the labor unions to wait for 2027 if they want to participate in the electoral process. But responding in a statement, the NLC President Joe Ajero said that they are not interested in Tinubu's position, but are demanding that he implements all the agreements the labor unions reached with the federal government following the removal of fuel subsidy. Earlier, human rights lawyer Ekene Henry was on the news and gave an expert's view on this.
What me, that represents that Mr. President didn't seem to recognize the position of the labor unions with respect to the demands of the people, not just workers in this regard, but the position of Nigerians and citizens with respect to certain policies of government that appear to have worsened the economic challenges that confront Nigerians. That comment by Mr. President is actually misplaced in my view. We're not talking politics. The labor unions were not discussing issues of politics and then transition or elections, really. We've gone past elections more than a year ago. And then March makes a year since the last elections at the state levels. And then the presidential elections, I think, since February makes a year. So for Mr. President to trivialize the challenges that Nigerians are confronted with, and then that has led to the positions that the labor unions have taken with respect to the protests and demands for government to respect the decisions, or rather the agreements that they entered with the labor unions, is unfortunate. So for me, I think Mr. President didn't seem to demonstrate that understanding of the challenges and then the position of labor.
There was pandemonium on March 1st at the Jos Correctional Center when the armed squad fired tear gas and gunshots in the air to quell an uprising by inmates of the center. The development came after the inmates were said to have protested the news of a reduction in their food rations. News Central's Chizoba Anyonwe tells us more.
It was a calm Friday morning in Jos until sporadic gunshots were heard from the direction of the Jos Correctional Center in Plateau State, north-central Nigeria. Nosing around to find out exactly where it was coming from, it was revealed that the shots and tear gas were fired by the armed squad of the service to calm an uprising from inmates that could obstruct the fragile peace in the state if not contained. Journalists were not allowed into the premises of the service as it wasn't considered safe for them, just as no officer could speak to the press. On insistence, the controller Plateau State Correctional Service, who spoke off camera, confirmed the incident.
With the contractors who used to feed them this match, called and said that the rate things are expensive in the market, may not be able to cope with their feeling. So he now called him to his office yesterday and they sat down and said, okay, that the only way he can cope is that because they eat rice 4 times a week, beans 3 times. Then the only way he can cope is if they can reduce their rice consumption to twice a week so that we replace it with either gari or any other food stuff. So that I say because what they are buying rice before, the market has more than double.
It may not be difficult to connect the reaction of the inmates to the news of the reduction in ration and the protests taking place in some parts of the country over the hardship occasioned by the rising cost of living. But whether or not the inmates were right or wrong in their actions may become a topic of public debate.
What if they said there won't be food? What happens? But they're telling them that they're going to give you food, but the amount and the content at which we were giving you before has been reduced. So they should consider with the government as well.
Think about the children in school, think about so many people. Then these people shouldn't be forgotten. So I expected federal government to know what to do about them. The inmates are actually suffering.
It is only what they are given that they can eat. They don't have any other means they can get something to eat except what they are given. So what I'm suggesting is that government should do something about the economy of the country.
In the meantime, the situation has been brought under control just as people are going about their lawful businesses. In Jos for News Central, I am Chizoba Anyonwe.
The Nigerian Navy ship Beecraft Operation Delta Sanity has arrested a Ghana-owned motor tanker, Sweet Mary, involved in suspected crude oil theft. The vessel was arrested at 174 nautical miles off the coast of Nigeria, approximately 320 kilometers heading to Benin Republic. According to a statement by the NNS Base Information Officer, Lieutenant Ibrahim H., and also the motor tanker, that Sweet Mary vessel, had 13 crew 1 Ghanaian and 12 Nigerians on board as at the time of the arrest. The flag officer commanding West Naval Command, Rear Admiral M.B. Hassan, was quoted in a statement as saying that the vessel was carrying about 2 million liters of suspected product without approval and had switched off its automatic identification system to avoid detection on February 25, 2024. The Nigeria Immigration Service has been tasked to ensure adequate measures are put in place to protect the nation's borders. This was during the decoration of the newly appointed Controller General of the service in Abuja, where she was tasked to reposition the service for greater service delivery. News Central's Amadin Oyi tells us more.
It was a decoration ceremony of a new Comptroller General of the Nigeria Immigration Service. In attendance were senior officials of the service and representatives of sister security agencies. The new Comptroller was tasked to reposition the service and improve on its effectiveness.
Today, you start your new role, and we expect a lot of commitment and sustaining the strides made in the immigration services so far. You were chosen based on merit. You have worked hard for it. To whom much is given, we want you to please also be a team player. Be a team player. God has given you your eyes. I always say this at every point in time. God had a choice of giving us eyes at the back, but He decided to give us because He wants you to move forward. This is not a time to remember the ills of anybody. This is the time for you to know that you are only as strong as the weakest person in your service. Bring everybody together.
She was also tasked to be considerate in her decision-making process and work with all staff of the service.
In your decision-making process, I beg you, always understand the diversity of our nation.
The minister also tasked the new Comptroller on border security.
I will not judge you by virtue of your performance in passport administration. Take my word for it. That's a done deal by the grace of God. But I will judge you by how well you protect my border. Because the safety of Nigeria depends on how well we can secure our border.
As I step into this role, I want to first assure our fellow Nigerians that I am fully prepared and committed to serving our nation with utmost dedication and integrity. To that end, and under the guiding principles of the renewed hope agenda set forth by His Excellency President Tinubu's administration, we will strive towards unity, growth, and development.
The new Comptroller General assumes her role as the 19th Comptroller General of the Nigeria Immigration Service. In Abuja for News Central, I am Amadin Uyi.
Gona is now in the custody of the Abia State Police Command over the alleged murder of his 57-year-old father. The man, who was said to have escaped from the hospital where he was taken for treatment by his father after he manifested a strange behavior on Sunday, returned home only to allegedly strangle the later to death. Of course, News Central's Chinwe Ugele tells us more.
While some citizens were on Tuesday protesting the harsh economic conditions in the country, others decided to follow a dangerous path to economic advancement. The quiet community of Umuwaya Amuzuku in Umuahia North Local Government area of Abia State was thrown into commotion on that fateful day over the alleged strangling of Mr. Maduka Obunna, a tenant from Umuehihe Amoda Isuchi in Umunochi Local Government area of Abia State by his only son Chinalo. Neighbors gave account of the unfortunate incident.
Some days before then, the boy was behaving like a mad somebody, like a madman. So on Monday, The boy is like he's pursuing his father inside on Monday.
On Monday, ya kpọrọ nwa ya ha gawazie FMC. Ha gawa FMC at no ruo na FMC ebe and the boy ahapụ ha gba ọsọ gbalata n'ime ya ada. Papa ya sorokwe lọtakwa na-akpọgharị ya na ebe ọ bụ na ọ gara. Ihe ọ nọ na-asị m papa ya, confess, confess. You are a bad man. Confess. Go to church. Confess.
The various accounts confirmed that the deceased's love for Chinalo caused his untimely death.
Bawara ya mba, inwe ike bacha mba. Bawa daddy ya, papa ya bịa, complain ya to papa ya. Papa ya abawakwara gị.
Be running, walking up and down, threatening people, that kind of thing.
Chinalo's grieving stepmother, Joy Ubunna, said she would have been the victim if she had failed to move out of the house 2 years ago.
I'm not happy. I am crying because I did not expect that. I take this child to hospital, that when he acted like a madman. I took him to hospital, to the FMC. He ran away.
The police public relations officer, Maureen Chinaka, said the police are investigating the crime, while the suspect will soon be charged to court.
Investigation revealed that he said he intentionally harmed his father. Actually, he killed his father so he could use his father's left eyes for mortuary purposes, for ritual purposes rather. So we are investigating and will charge to court.
The police will also be investigating an earlier incident where a man from the same Isuchi in Umunochi local government area of Abia State also allegedly shot dead his son for consuming the only cooked food in the home. In Omahefoni Central, Chinwe Ugili.
Of course, we go on a quick break. Rather very unfortunate story there. When we return, we have more stories. Stay with us. Drama in Nigeria's federal capital as the Nigerian police has finally apprehended a female lawyer who has been accused of burning several parts of the body of minor with hot iron, now including her private part, over claims of sexually abusing her son. The suspect, who was paraded at the Ministry of Women Affairs in Abuja, was initially on the run with a 2 million naira bounty placed on her head. Nigeria's Minister of Women Affairs assured citizens that she will face the long arm of the law. Now, News Central's Amadun Uyi tells us more.
The case has sparked national uproar following reports on social media. The suspect, a female lawyer resident in Onitsha, had accused her maid of abusing her son, and following efforts to discipline her, burned several parts of her body, placing a hot knife and pepper into her private parts before tying her up without food for over a day. Nigeria's Minister of Women Affairs had placed a 2 million naira bounty on her head after she took to her heels.
We no go gree again. You tamper with any child, we tamper with any woman, you will see action, legal action. Any kind of action you need, you will see it.
She dropped the young girl with her aunt, without clothes, with the burns on the cheek, with the burns on the buttocks, and with blood and water oozing out of the private parts. The aunt raised an alarm, and the alarm attracted passers-by who brought out their phones. We know what Nigerians do with the phones, and they started recording and videoing and taking pictures, and this went straight to the social space.
The Minister of Women Affairs, while parading the suspect at the ministry's headquarters in Abuja, says that she will not escape the law. The suspect, however, denied the allegations, saying the burns and others on the victim were not intentional, but acquired mistakenly when being disciplined for sexually abusing her son.
This is the lady you asked for. We have brought her and we are assuring you that till we get justice for that girl, till we get justice for the nation, we will not let go. Before she was brought, we've already gone to court with the police and all her bank accounts are blocked. she can't access her money. And she won't access it until such a time, because that is what was giving her money she was using to keep this case down all this while before the bounty was announced. So let me see where she gets the money from.
She entered with her because she was running away from King, and she mistakenly sat on the gas of food on fire. That was what happened to her. The blade got to her skin. The blade of the gas.
The ministry and the police are assuring that the suspect will be charged to court and there will be justice for the victim. In Abuja for News Central, I am Amadine Uyi.
Nigeria ranks a lowly 139 out of 156 countries in the World Economic Forum's Gender Gap Index, and many, especially women, have raised concerns about the country may be regressing in female representation in leadership. Bridging this gap is part of the reasons for this month's designated the month for gender equality by the Sustainable Development Goal Initiative. Now, News Central's Omolola Ololade tells us more.
According to the United Nations, 1 out of every 3 women experience physical, sexual or intimate partner violence, and 1 in every 10 married Nigerian women report experiencing sexual violence in a lifetime. Nigeria recorded 27,698 cases of sexual violence between 2020 and 2023 alone, according to the Federal Ministry of Women Affairs. The increase in the number of sexual and gender-based violence cases is becoming alarming, a situation experts say can be attributed to several cultural norms in the country.
We found that 55% of all the killings affecting women and girls are happening essentially at the hand of a family member or an intimate partner. Now, 55% that is for women and girls. For men, it's only 12%. So the home is not a safe haven for women and girls. And we need to be very honest with ourselves. That is the result of thousands of years of probably to some extent misled cultural developments that we need now to rectify slowly.
Cultural norms and practices in Nigeria are factors responsible for a large number of issues, especially regarding women and girl children. Nigeria ranks the lowest, coming 54th, with 5.45% female representation, while Rwanda ranks first with 47.95%. From 1999 till date, only 157 women have been elected into the 469-member National Assembly, 38 senators and 119 members of the House of Representatives, compared to 2,657 men, 616 senators, and 2,041 representatives during this same period. Nigerian female politicians therefore talk about the challenges as well as the way forward.
That if you are a woman into business or an entrepreneurship, you are more likely to make policies that would support this group of people, because that's the area you know and an area you're familiar with. And so when we're talking about making changes and bringing more people on the table, we are advocating that you bring a variety of people on the table so that they will also influence policies and create impact in their various spheres of life, rather than making a particular sector.
While representation of women in politics and decision-making is crucial to the nation's development, more important is the education of the girl child across the 6 geopolitical zones. Nigeria has a record of 18.5 million out-of-school children, out of which 10 million are girls, according to UNICEF.
Then the issue of culture and then tradition comes to play. Most of the times they are thinking, okay, when she's 18 years, the highest I can do is to give her out to in marriage. And with this, why will she even go to school now? Because when she get married, the essence of education is defeated. They are not looking at the education as a means to empower her to take good care of herself as a person.
In Nigeria, another major issue that stands as a threat to the education of the girl child is early child marriage, particularly in the northern part of the country. Many of these girls find their education cut off That is, if they had any access to an education in the first place. Despite the prevalence of child marriage among some sections of the country, child marriage remains illegal in Nigeria.
Child marriage causes social isolation, gender inequalities, and it also launches a girl on a cycle of poverty. I'm calling on our government, though they are trying their best, but I want them to fully implement the Child Rights Act, because it's a law that actually protects the rights of children in general. So I feel it's a great one, and it will help to protect girls from being married at an early age.
Sadly, the female gender in Nigeria seems to experience a gender inequality in different aspects of her life. The cultural norm in eastern Nigeria deprives a woman of a husband or father's inheritance. Although the Supreme Court's judgment grants an inheritance to the girl child in Igbo land, putting an end to a culture that has held the society together as patriarchal, some women still suffer this discriminatory act.
We can also look at how we can strengthen our legal aid services, that is strengthening legal services to assist women who are facing discrimination and challenges in claiming their inheritance. We can also look at engaging further with community members through community dialogues, that is intergenerational dialogues, where you bring different age groups in the communities to come together to discuss misunderstandings, misconception, and stereotypes that may limit women and girls from enforcing their right to inherit properties.
While the Nigerian Constitution provides for gender equality and non-discrimination, women continue to suffer injustices and marginalization as a result of discriminatory laws, religious and cultural norms, gender stereotypes, and low levels of education, among others. The hope of the Sustainable Development Goal is that in the month of March, countries where gender inequality thrives, which includes Nigeria, should pay attention to laws and policies that will help dismantle these barriers and pave the way for women to thrive in the society. In Lagos, for News Central, Omolola Ololade.
The growing concern in Nigeria to put measures in place to tackle the prevalence of social vices threatening the future of students has once again become the centerpiece of discussion. While some experts in Nigeria are calling for the mandatory drug testing of students to ensure they are not into drugs, others are calling for the resuscitation of relevant school clubs to keep their minds away from vices. News Central's Idong Joseph tells us more.
Secondary school education, unlike primary school education, according to Nigeria's National Policy on Education, prepares individuals to be useful members of society and for higher education. Unfortunately, in recent times, many secondary schools across the country are grappling with a myriad of vices ranging from substance abuse, examination malpractice, bullying, and cultism, among others. While social vices among secondary school students have become a national dilemma, some think a lack of discipline by parents contributes to this menace.
1 in every 4 students between 15 to 19 years abuse substances. Syrup containing codeine and tramadol top the list of drugs, ranking higher than cannabis.
During our days, when you are going out and see a child misbehaving in the society, and a passerby, elderly person, who will have corrected the child, either by beating, scolding, or peradventure you know the parents. Apart from that, you will go and report to the parents. But today, nobody cares. They just pass by. And we have seen cases whereby parents have arrested teachers for correcting their works.
Experts say secondary school vices threatens the moral fabric of the nation and call for continuous advocacy to end it once and for all.
Mandatory routine and random drug testing for students is for preventive, not punitive purposes, and early intervention is crucial for achieving success in tackling the menace of substance abuse.
The ministry further directed all the school management to increase their surveillance on school biases, most especially now in the era of social media. The principal are hereby directed to resuscitate relevant school clubs and societies like agric, press, literary, and debating societies, among others, to keep the mind of students occupied with useful thought.
These are monsters that if we joke with them, they can bring us down in totality.
They are also calling for partnership with parents to help keep their words in check. In Abuja for News Central, I am Idonk Joseph.
You're watching News Central now. Coming up, suspect arrested in Martina Zongo's murder. Of course, we have details of this after now. The news continues in West Africa, where several hundred people rallied in the Senegalese capital Dakar on Saturday, calling for the country's postponed presidential polls to be held before April 2nd, the date when incumbent Macky Sall's term is set to end. The protesters gathered at the Sandy Lot in a working-class neighborhood for the protest, called for by the Resistance Front and alliance of opposition parties and campaigning groups. A national dialogue organized at the start of the week by the president, but boycotted by the opposition, and recommended holding the elections on June 2nd. Sall indicated that he would ask the Constitutional Court Council for its opinion on the request.
On espère que la situation va s'arranger par le Conseil constitutionnel, parce que c'est elle qui a le droit de rétablir cette forfaiture organisée par le président Macky Sall. Oui, on écoute le Conseil constitutionnel, mais en attendant, on va manifester, on va parler, on va se mettre debout, on va crier pour que Macky Sall rétablisse nos élections au Sénégal ici, pour qu'on quitte cette dictature. Nous ne sommes pas en dictature.
Et nous demandons le président Macky Sall de quitter le pouvoir et qu'il organise des élections transparentes. Voilà, c'est ça qu'on veut. Avant le 2 avril, nous voulons des élections et nous demandons la libération de notre candidat Bassirou Diomaye Faye ainsi que de notre président Ousmane Sonko. C'est ça que nous voulons. Moi, là, de ce que je vous parle, je ne vais jamais laisser. J'irai jusqu'au bout. Parce que c'est ça que nous avons appris. On ne va jamais laisser. On va combattre jusqu'à donner nos vies. Parce que dans cette vie-là, soit on vit, soit on meurt. C'est ça qui nous retient ici. Autant mourir pour la bonne cause. Et mourir pour la bonne cause. Alhamdulillah.
Meanwhile, several dozens of journalists gathered outside the premises of the 7 TV television channel to show support for a colleague attacked on Thursday night. Now, Mamouna Ndoa Faye, a journalist and the general manager of the privately owned channel, was stabbed near a home in Dakar. She is now in a stable condition, according to a 7 TV statement. Meanwhile, Senegal's President Macky Sall has condemned the violent knife attack. The attack comes amidst heightened political tension in the West African nation over the postponement of the presidential poll that was scheduled for February 25th.
C'est peut-être aussi la sécurité du journaliste qui a été touchée. Et quand les journalistes ont un sentiment d'insécurité, je pense que sans prétention aucune, la démocratie quelque part a un sentiment d'insécurité. Parce que tout le monde sait que la liberté de la presse et la liberté d'expression constituent quand même des piliers de la démocratie en tant que système viable où chaque citoyen peut s'exprimer dans le respect de l'autre sans qu'on puisse essayer d'attenter à sa vie.
C'était dur, c'était difficile à supporter, c'était aussi compliqué et c'est déplorable quand même. C'est déplorable qu'on fasse ça à une personne aussi brave et personne ne le mérite, encore moins une
soutien. Mais moi aussi j'ai été victime de violences policières récemment et c'est pour cela que je dis que la presse doit se mobiliser pour que ces agissements-là cessent. Parce qu'il est hors de question que les journalistes se sentent menacés, soient violentés alors qu'ils ne font que leur travail.
Let's now head to Central Africa, where 17 people, including a top businessman and an ex-Secret Service chief, will stand trial in Cameroon over the killing of a popular journalist. The badly mutilated corpse of Sine Salomon Mbane Zongo, also known as Martinez, was found a few days after his abduction in front of a police station outside the capital Yaoundé on January 17, 2023. The 50-year-old radio reporter was an outspoken critic of the alleged corruption and Sinoism in the Central African nation, often singling out government officials by name. Now, international NGOs say the regime of President Paul Biya, 91 years, who has ruled with an iron fist for more than 41 years, routinely curtails opposition. Now, thousands, of course, in the continent's north have protested deteriorating living conditions outside the Prime Minister's office in Tunis on Saturday, following a call from Tunisia's main trade union confederation. The confederation's head, Nouruddin Tobobi, said in a speech to protesters that the state's ability to service its foreign debt in 2023 has been to the detriment of the people and resulted in shortages of basic products. Criticized the implementation of the diktats from the International Monetary Fund at the expense of the ordinary Tunisian. According to the National Institute of Statistics, the Tunisian economy is at a standstill with growth of 0.4% and an unemployment rate of 16.4% in 2023. Still ahead, protests for Palestine's freedom holds in Washington. We have details of this and more after now. Hundreds of protesters rallied outside the Israeli embassy in Washington, where a U.S. airman died last weekend after self-immolation in protest against the war in Gaza. According to official figures, the brutal October 7th attack by Hamas on southern Israel resulted in the deaths of around 1,160 persons. Israel responded with a relentless assault on the mass-controlled Gaza that has taken a devastating toll on citizens trapped there, killing more than 30,000 persons, that is according to the territory's health ministry.
It really gives me hope to see that everyone hasn't just given up. There are still people willing to come out on a dreary day like today and lend their voices to something positive, something moving towards a solution. More work needs to be done on the diplomatic front to engage in thinking of a long-term solution that's going to lead to sustained peace in the Middle East and not just the cycle of violence that's been perpetuated for the past 75 years.
We are not tired. We keep pushing here. We have a vital role here in the diaspora to play, to put pressure on the institutions that are making this genocide possible. And we will continue to fight, and we will continue to push forward and push our demands until we achieve them. The Biden administration has been endorsing this genocide, and we are calling for a ceasefire. That is our #1 demand, but that's the bare minimum. It's essential that we have a ceasefire, but that is the...
Several hundred demonstrators targeted a chemical facility owned by ACMA in Pierre Benite near Lyon, France, sparking a swift police response and resulting in 8 arrests. The protest, driven by concerns over environmental pollution, specifically the non-biodegradable PFAS substances, saw activists forcing entry into the plant and also vandalizing property, labeling the site with accusatory graffiti. Now, following the breach, local law enforcement acted promptly to mitigate further damage, securing the site and obtaining 8 individuals believed to be centrally involved in the incursion. ACMA has publicly denounced the protest, emphasizing the risk it posed not only to the facility's integrity but to employees' safety.
Oui, donc l'idée c'est de faire une porte entrouverte parce que d'un côté on veut fermer les vannes des polluants éternels que Arkema rejette dans le Rhône et d'un autre côté on veut ouvrir la porte justement parce que tout ça s'effectue dans le secret. On a découvert très récemment que ces rejets étaient faits de cette façon-là, c'est donc pas fait de manière transparente et donc on veut aller voir par nous-mêmes, checker la vérité. Et c'est une opération à la mesure de ce qui a été infligé dans les 50 dernières années encore une fois. Donc on fait rien de très méchant, hein. C'est juste on montre que au vu de la pollution qui a été effectuée, ça nous paraît tout à fait dans la mesure des choses et au vu du scandale sanitaire qui est presque au même niveau que l'amiante, ça nous paraît tout à fait dans la mesure des choses de pénétrer sur site parce que les choses n'avancent juste pas assez vite.
Members of the United Nations Peacekeeping Force in Cyprus from the British Army 71 Engineer Regiment Patrol say even after 60 years of being in Cyprus, it is still necessary for the troops to remain in the country. EU member Cyprus has been divided since 1974 when Turkish forces occupied Ireland's northern third in response to a military coup.
The reality is that when the sides are not negotiating at the table, quite often that translates into insecurity inside the buffer zone, with tensions rising between the sides, incursions and incidents inside the buffer zone. So that's why we're so keen to see the two sides resume negotiation. Well, the job of any peacekeeping mission it should be for a limited duration. We always intend to come, fulfill the peacekeeping task at hand and leave. The fact that we're still here 60 years later, highlights the fact that we still need a solution to the Cyprus problem. In the meantime, in the absence of a solution, the role of the peacekeeping force here in Cyprus remains imperative. There are thousands of armed troops on either side of the buffer zone, and we maintain daily contact with both sides when they do not talk.
Leaders at the Gas Exporting Countries Forum summit held in the Algerian capital have unanimously adopted the Algiers Declaration, which condemns unilateral economic sanctions. According to the GECF's Secretary General, member countries reiterated the condemnation of all unilateral economic restrictions taken without the prior approval of the United Nations Security Council.
Countries reiterate their condemnation of all unilateral economic restrictions undertaken without the prior approval of the United Nations Security Council, and any extraterritorial application of national laws and regulations against GECF member countries that negatively impact.
لابد حماية كل المنشآت الطاقوية عبر العالم لأنها مهمة جدا. في منشآت عابرة للحدود، هذه المنشآت التي أشرنا إليها في إعلان الجزائر. أول مرة نريد أن نبعث رسالة قوية لحماية المنشآت الطاقوية.
In the world of sports, Mamelodi Sundowns wrapped up their CAF Champions League group stage campaign, beating TP Mazembe 1-0 on Saturday. Now, Peter scored from the spot in the 38th minute to make sure that Sundowns get the needed win for the South African Giants with maximum points, finishing the group stages with 13 points and on top of their group. Sundowns have now qualified for the knockout stages as they continue to seek the second Champions League trophy in the club's history. They've reached the final of the competition twice, the first in 2001, and they have lost to Egyptian rivals Al Ahly before claiming the title in 2016, winning against Zamalek. Burkina Faso's Hig Fabrice Zongo clinched gold on Saturday in a triple jump event at the Wolo Indoor Athletics Championship in Glasgow. Zango's leap of 17.53 meters surpassed a strong opening effort by Algeria's Nasser Mohamed Triki. At first attempt, he recorded a 16.69 meter leap, despite Mohamed's 17.35 meter jump. On the second round, Zango responded with a 17.33 meter jump, then went on to clinch gold with a 17.53 meter jump on his fifth attempt, adding a World Indoor Championship gold to his medal haul of an Olympic bronze medal and World Athletics Championship silver. And that's all on the news at this time, but before we go, another look at some of our top stories. We told you that Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu has begun an official engagement in Qatar. Hundreds have rallied in Senegal demanding speedy elections. And finally, we also told you that thousands have protested in Tunisia over failing living standards in Tunis. Don't forget to send in your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number on the screen. You can also follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You can watch us live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Apple TV and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I am Dapo Adegboye. Bye for now.